Make sure this season to check out Walter's self-poured beer wall, which includes 24 different items, including Fireside Chat, Vienna Lager, and Green City IPA. Visit waltersdc.com for more information.
Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this podcast. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. At hundreds of locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/bluewire to learn more and find a center near you. That's unifydhealing.com/bluewire. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.
Miller ready. Here it comes. Swinging a high drive right field. Back on this one is Perez to the warning track. He's going to have room. He makes the catch. Meneses will tag. Meneses will score. Mr. Sack Fly. Ildemaro Vargas has tied the game at 2. The pitch. Swinging a ground ball. Softly hit past the mound. It rolls through into center field for a base hit. Ibanez scores 5-2 Detroit. Literally anything they put their bat on this inning is going to find grass in the outfield. Green at second, Urshela at first, the pitch. And this is ripped down the left field line. It's fair, it's headed to the corner, it may clear the bases. Racing home is Green. Urshela rounding third. He knocks his helmet off as he rounds third, and he will score. And at second with a double is Justin Henry Malloy. Tigers busted wide open. They lead 7-2. A nightmare of a seventh inning as the Tigers have scored 5 times.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Friday, June 14th, 2024. Along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Comerica Park in Detroit. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Friday is Flag Day, a happy Flag Day to all of you who celebrate. There is no Nationals flag greater than their flag for winning the 2019 World Series. The Nats ended that 2019 regular season on an 8-game winning streak, and that remains the last time that the Nats had a regular season winning streak of at least 6 games. Thursday afternoon, a 7-2 loss at the Detroit Tigers, ending the Nats' 5-game winning streak. It was their first regular season winning streak of at least 5 games since June 2021. The Nats for this regular season now are 32-36. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast is brought to us by the DC Grays. DC Grays Baseball, an all-volunteer nonprofit that brings baseball and softball to kids in under-resourced neighborhoods of Washington, D.C. The DC Grays 2024 season is underway. To donate and learn more about the Grays, visit dcgrays.com. A rough game for the Nats bullpen, which allowed the Tigers to score 5 runs in the bottom of the 7th. A bad game for the Nats offense. Mark, this overall was a good series for the Nats, and this overall, I think, is a good season for the Nats. But Thursday afternoon's game, not a good game for the Nats.
No, and it kind of felt like even going into it, you knew that this was going to be tougher than a lot of them because you needed a very specific set of things to happen for them to have a chance to win this game. You were going to need Patrick Corbin to pitch well. Now, that actually happened. They got the good start out of Corbin. You were going to need to score some runs. They really struggled with that, 2 sacrifice flies from Ildemaro Vargas. That's their entire offensive output. And even with all that, they're still in a position to win the game. But you knew going into this that their top relievers were not going to be available after pitching the last 2 days and pitching extensively the last 2 days. And even the guys that Davey Martinez went to had pitched some heavy innings here of late. And so it felt like this was going to be one of those days that he was going to try to squeeze something out of them, ask them to do more than they've done before. And I don't think it's real surprising what happened. I think they shrugged this one off and say, over 162, you're going to have a few like this where you just kind of know you don't really put your best foot forward. But if it allows them to come back this weekend against the Marlins and do well, then they'll live with this one.
The Nats bullpen, of course, has done a lot of good work this season. The bullpen on Thursday afternoon did have some problems. 4 relievers combined to allow 6 runs in 2 2/3 innings. The 6 runs came off 2 relievers in Derek Law and Robert Garcia. Derek Law officially allowed 4 runs in 1 1/3 innings. He faced 8 batters, got just 4 outs, gave up a solo homer, a double, and 2 singles. Robert Garcia officially allowed 2 runs without recording it out, but it was his outing that really was problematic. He would ended up being that 5-run 7th for the Tigers, faced 3 batters and got no outs. He came into the game bottom of the 7th, a runner on 3rd, 2 outs, and the Nats down 4-2. He, to the first batter he faced, gave up a 2-out RBI single by Riley Green up the middle for a 5-2 Tigers lead. Garcia then issued a 2-out wild pitch. Garcia then issued a 2-out 7-pitch walk of Gio Urshela, and Garcia then gave up a 2-out 2-run double by Justin Henry Malloy to left field on a 1-2 pitch for a 7-2 Tigers lead. Jacob Barnes faced 1 batter, got 1 out, which was the final out of that 5-run 7th for the Tigers. And then we saw the ultimate sign that this game was out of hand, a Tanner Rainey appearance. But Tanner actually pitched well. He actually is pitching better in his rare opportunities to pitch in games. He tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th. Bullpen overall good. You're going to have games like these. I think if there's a nit to pick with some of these Nats relievers this season, and Garcia and Law come to mind to varying regards, it is the issue of inherited runners. We have seen Nats relievers at times have an issue with that. And so sometimes you look at the ERAs of these relievers, they can be a little misleading. There has been at least a bit of an issue of Nats relievers allowing inherited runners to score.
Right, and there's some irony in this one that Derek Law, who has struggled so much, allowing other guys inherited runners to score. This time he gets penalized because it's Robert Garcia allowing 2 runners he inherited from Law to score. And so that skewers his pitching line somewhat. I agree. It is something they're going to have to get better at, or you're just going to have to leave a guy out there or let everybody start an inning clean. But you don't want to do that when you see things are not going well, or you have a matchup, a lefty matchup that you want. You have to be able to have faith in them to come in there and get out of a jam. Now, as far as the usage goes, to me, I think you went into this. Finnegan, Harvey, and Floro had each pitched the last 2 days, so none of them available. But Garcia threw 22 pitches on Wednesday and had to come back in. Not to say you can't do that or that you don't need to do that from time to time, but it's not like he came into this thing and he was 100%. And Law, even though he had Wednesday off, he threw 27 pitches on Tuesday. It was a really good outing for him. He had 4 strikeouts. We talked about that the other night. But it's not like he comes in totally fresh either. And so the issue to me is, you've essentially got 5 guys that you trust and use a lot, and 3 guys who you don't use hardly at all. Jacob Barnes had been used more of late, but he had 3 days off prior to this one. Jordan Weems had 3 days off, and he's been really bad here his last few. And Tanner Rainey hadn't pitched in 8 days. Now, we understand the situation. You're trying to save him up for these blowouts, but you have to ultimately be able to use everybody in your bullpen to get through a season. And I do wonder, small sample, but it's been 4 scoreless appearances for him in a row. Maybe you try to creep his way back into a situation of more confidence, even if it costs you. At some point, you got to find out if he can do it. Otherwise, what's the point of having any of these guys in your bullpen?
The Rainey thing really cracks me up. It was weeks ago that we said that things can't continue like this, and yet things have continued like this. The Nats somehow have continued to play this Tanner Rainey game of having him on the major league roster, but so rarely pitching him. I'm almost like, now I want to see this continue. I want to see how far below E the Nats can take that gas meter in the car. You know, how long can we ride this of having a guy on your major league bullpen who you go out of your way not to pitch? This really is unlike anything I feel like we've ever seen with a Nats player. I know they've had some Rule 5 draftees, but this is different, and this is so bizarre. Yeah, I mean, if he's going to stay on the major league roster, at some point, aren't you going to have to trust him in some medium leverage spots? They don't play a lot of blowouts, so they can't keep going down this path. I think anyway. I don't know. Maybe in 2 weeks we'll be having the same conversation. But yeah, you'd think at some point Davey's going to have to use Rainey in some less than blowout opportunities. I mean, you look at the Nats schedule, off day on Monday, then an off day 2 Thursdays after that. But then after that comes another one of these murderous runs without an off day, and that's going to take the Nats to the All-Star break. So, you know, it's not like there are a ton of off days coming up. You figure the bullpen is going to continue to get fatigued. Maybe we do start to see Rainey in some higher leverage spots. We'll see.
I think you have to use everybody to some degree, because it's not just about, well, can we trust this guy in a big spot or not? knock on wood, they've been incredibly healthy bullpen-wise. The last thing they can afford to have happen is for one of the main guys to have issues because of overusage. And so you've got to watch them. I know you're trying to win games. They're in almost every game. That's fine. If this thing is going to play out the way that they still think it could play out, you really need Finnegan and Harvey and Floro later this season. And so there are days like this one where you have to say, you know what? They are not going to pitch, and we're going to have to use someone else. And eventually, everybody who is in that bullpen has to be trusted to some extent. So, yeah, if you put him in there in a medium leverage spot and it blows up on him, okay, fine. At least you know now, and maybe now you make that decision that you've been holding on to here for a while about whether you're going to hang on to the guy or not. Same thing with Jordan Weems. I get they're not pitching well. I get you want to work on some things with them. But it's really hard to waste roster spots in a bullpen, especially on a team that doesn't get super length out of its starters. The starters have been good, don't get me wrong. But you're not consistently getting 7 innings out of those guys. You're hoping for 6 in most cases. And so that does tax a bullpen.
This episode of Nats Chat is brought to you by DC Grays Baseball. DC Grays Baseball is an all-volunteer nonprofit that brings baseball and softball to kids in under-resourced neighborhoods of DC. Inspired by the great Grays team of the Negro Leagues, who played many championship seasons in Washington, with stars like Josh Gibson and Buck Leonard, the DC Grays have developed their MVP program. It gives boys and girls in underserved parts of DC the same opportunity to pursue their baseball and softball dreams as do kids from more affluent parts of the DMV. The Grays provide expert coaching, uniforms, equipment, and tournament travel free of charge. A donation of $100 will help a child in DC to participate in the Grays MVP program. The Grays also field a team in the Cal Ripken Summer Collegiate Baseball League. Their 2024 season is now underway. To donate and learn more about the Grays, go to dcgrays.com. Here's your Dylan Cruz and Brady House report for the game played on Thursday. They combined for 5 hits, and House homered for the second consecutive day. Now back to the show.
He is ready at the belt. Peeks back at the runner, the 1-2. Swinging a looper into shallow left. Could be trouble. Abrams going out. Coming in Winker. It falls for a hit. Rounding third coming home is Kreidler. Winker's throw is going to be too late. And the Tigers take the lead. Abanez holds at second. 1-0 Detroit on a bloop hit into shallow left center for Canna.
Well, like we said, Patrick Corbin was pretty good in this game on Thursday afternoon. 1 run and 5 and a third innings. Certainly by Corbin standards, you take that. He gave up just 4 hits, all of which were singles. He did issue 2 walks and 2 hit by pitches. He recorded 4 strikeouts. He threw 94 pitches, 58 strikes versus 36 balls. You know, we've been talking about Corbin's status as a member of the Nats rotation. We're waiting on Josiah Gray and Cade Cavalli. It is pretty clear now. Gray, it looks like, will be back sooner than Cavalli. But with each outing with Corbin, you feel like he is in some ways auditioning to maintain his spot in that rotation. Now, DJ Hers hasn't been super impressive, but it's only 2 starts. Let's see some more. He's got another start coming up this weekend. How soon do you think Gray might be back? How soon do you think the Nats are going to have to make a rotation decision?
So he is scheduled to make his next rehab start Friday at Harrisburg, and he threw 3 innings the last one, so probably 4 in this next one. Initially, I was told they were hoping that maybe he'd be ready after 3 of them, but Davey kind of casually threw out the other day in talking about him 4 or 5 rehab starts. So that may be a sign that they want to take this a little slower, which of course has the domino effect to it all. So let's see. I think you have to see how he does in each start, how he feels, how much he's able to throw. You know, you don't have to activate him if you're not 100% sure that he is ready to compete at a level that you want. And I get it in the long run. You're going to say Josiah Gray should give you a better chance to win than Patrick Corbin. But this is a guy who struggled the first 2 starts before going on the IL. And I think you do need to see some level of success, whatever that looks like, in the minor leagues before you make the move. So it's number one about building them up. But I do think to some extent, it's also about having at least a little bit of success in those rehab starts. So I think we're still looking at several weeks. And as you point out, DJ Hers is hardly a sure thing or a lock to stick around here. He's going to have to perform himself. We'll find out more this weekend when he goes against the Marlins.
By the way, we have not yet talked about this. I think it is worth getting into momentarily here. What is happening with Cade Cavalli, his rehab essentially being put on pause. That's not something you anticipate. It's certainly not something that you want. Is that something that is troubling or not necessarily?
It's been hard to get a gauge on this one, what exactly is going on. The way that they are describing it is essentially saying he's doing fine. You are allowed to, with Tommy John patients, hit pause on the rehab and not be penalized for that. It's something that I guess MLB and the union have worked out to say that these guys often do need more time than that. But he's with the team. He has been with the team. He threw a bullpen. He's going to throw a live BP session here coming up before they consider sending him back out. Now, I don't know if this is just them saying we're trying to slow play it and push him back a little bit further, or there's actually something that's gone wrong. I don't sense there's anything physical there. I do think mechanically they're maybe not 100% thrilled with how he looks. His last outing, command was off, and I think that maybe caused them to say, hang on, let's see if we can work on some things here. But it's been hard to read between the lines what's actually going on here, if it's a cause for concern or if it's them just saying, we don't have to force this. We have the ability to hit pause for a week or two and then put him back out there. I would watch closely in the next week. If it drags on and he's not being sent back out to pitch in minor league games, then I think that's a problem and a greater cause for concern.
So Josiah Gray, minor league rehab assignment, going to last a little longer than initially thought. Cade Cavalli rehab on pause. Patrick Corbin may be staying in the rotation for a little while longer. We shall see. The Nats offense. So the Nats over their previous 4 games had totaled 27 runs, but the Nats on Thursday afternoon scored just 2 runs. So 2 runs, just 5 hits, which were 2 doubles and 3 singles, 2 walks, 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. The Nats scored a run in the top of the 4th and a run in the top of the 7th, and each run courtesy of an RBI sac fly by Ildemaro Vargas. He is the Nats starting third baseman and number 7 batter, 0 for 1 with 2 RBI sac flies. He in the 1-run 4th had a 1-out RBI sac fly to tie the game at 1, and he and the Nats 1-run 7th, a 1-out RBI sac fly to tie the game at 2. What was a history-making RBI sac fly. That was the Nats' 6th sac fly of the series, setting a new record for most sac flies by the Nats in a 3-game series since the franchise moved to Washington, D.C. I don't know that anything says 2024 Nationals offense more than the team setting a record for most sac flies in a 3-game series. That perfectly encapsulates this 2024 Nats offense.
At least they're not striking out. They're putting the ball in play, Al. Productive outs. That's what it's all about here in the year 2024, right? Yeah, boy, there was a moment there in the press box when he hit that ball in the air to right field and you're holding your breath. Okay, is this it? Is this the record setter? And sure enough, it was. And balloons went off, confetti, big celebration as they broke the club's all-time record for sacrifice flies in a 3-game series. And they were only 1 away from the all-time record across Major League Baseball in a 3-game series. Sadly, it didn't come to that. Look, there are times when sacrifice flies are very valuable and helpful, and Ildemaro Vargas is the kind of guy who can do that for you. The problem, at least in this game, is they just didn't have enough else going on offensively. They didn't give themselves a lot of opportunities with runners in scoring position, and they certainly didn't string together hits to have big innings. Unfortunately, because the first 2 games of the series, they actually did, and wouldn't you know, it didn't happen in the finale. But good on Vargas, 2 sac flies and a stat line for the day that only shows 1 official at-bat.
Well, you have the Bobby Thompson shot heard around the world, and you have the Ildemaro Vargas RBI sac fly in that 1-run 7th inning on June 13th, 2024. We will never forget either occurrence. There was a significant bright spot for the Nats on Thursday afternoon. Joey Meneses. Nice game for him. 2nd consecutive nice game for him. He is the Nats starting first baseman and number 5 batter, 2 for 3 with 2 doubles and a walk. Top of the 2nd, a 1-out first pitch double to left field. 1-run 4th, a 1-out 9-pitch walk. And Meneses in the Nats 1-run 7th, a leadoff double down the left field line on a 1-2 pitch. He was the Nats starting first baseman for each of the final 2 games of the series, as of course Joey Gallo now is out with injury. And Meneses over the 2 games went a combined 4 for 7 with 3 doubles, an RBI single, and 2 walks. So hitting for some power, drawing some walks. Good to see this from Joey Meneses.
Yeah, and as we said the other night, hitting the ball with some authority in the air to the pull side of the field. It's something that he has said he's really working on. He knows he needs to do this. And I asked him, it's easy to say you need to do it, but how hard is it to actually do it? And he laughed. He said, it's incredibly hard. It's not like he doesn't want to do that. I know at times it has felt like, he's just trying to bloop a little single to right field. No, that's not his strategy. He is trying, when he gets the right pitch, to pull the ball in the air. It's nice to see him doing this the last couple of days. He also knows, as we discussed the other night, this could be his last best opportunity up here with Joey Gallo out. We don't know what happens when Gallo comes back, or even before that point, if Meneses continues to struggle. So I think he understands the ramifications here, the pressure. He embraces that. He has always said he feels better when he is playing in the field and is more engaged. So here's your opportunity to do it. 2 games in, nice results. Now let's see if he can continue it.
Hey listeners, Tim Shover's here to tell you about an offer on the Game Time app. There's a sporting event going on this weekend in the DMV you might not be aware of. Argentina's national soccer team, the defending World Cup champions, take on Guatemala this Friday night in Landover, Maryland, at what is now known as Commander's Field. There are tickets available on Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Hey guys, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation, which has another great offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation is extending its semi-annual sale, 50% off all window styles, plus 0% interest for 5 years, and an additional bonus if you schedule an appointment between now and the end of this month. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you. Window Nation windows are the best. Add to the look, feel, and value of your home. Every Window Nation window undergoes a 50-point inspection before the window leaves the Window Nation factory. And know that Window Nation's vinyl windows can do everything that wood or composite windows can do, and at a fraction of the cost of wood and composite windows. Take advantage of this offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 50% off all window styles plus 0% interest for 5 years, and an additional bonus if you schedule an appointment between now and the end of this month. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
From grown-worthy dad jokes to patching up skinned knees, your dad is one of a kind. This Father's Day, give him a gift that is guaranteed to take him to his happy place. Omaha Steaks. Order mouth-watering gift packages starting at just $89 when you go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code NATSCHAT at checkout. Each package is backed by their unconditional money-back guarantee. Show your dad the love he deserves with a gift as unforgettable as he is. Visit omahasteaks.com, promo code NATSCHAT at checkout.
Nats have left 3 on base, the Tigers 5. Here's the 2-2. Strike 3 called over the outside corner at the top of the zone. And Thomas just got tossed. Wow. Thomas just got tossed. That was a quick trigger.
I don't understand that.
And Davey Martinez is coming out, and Miguel Cairo is going to come get Thomas away. Thomas is saying, I wasn't talking to you.
His comment was not directed at the home plate umpire, is what Thomas is saying.
And Thomas says something to Larry Vanover on the way back to the dugout. I mean, Thomas, I don't recall him ever being ejected before, and it was strike 3, and then not only you're out of the game.
We also in this game had an ejection. Lane Thomas, he is the Nats starting right fielder and number 2 batter, 1 for 3 with a single and an ejection. Thomas struck out looking to begin the top of the 6th, and he then was ejected by the home plate umpire, Emil Jimenez, even though Thomas appeared not to say anything before getting ejected. Now, he did appear to give Jimenez a dirty look before being ejected, but your colleague Bobby Blanco tweeted out a video of what happened. I watched it about, 10 times. I didn't see Thomas say anything. Maybe he muttered something. He did give Jimenez kind of a nasty look, but I didn't see Thomas say anything. And I know Davey Martinez, during his postgame session with you guys, essentially echoed that sentiment.
He dropped the MF, and then the umpire threw him out, and he said he looked right at him and said it, and I said, that's not what we saw.
So he did say something. I think it was more of a muttering, and he insists not directed at the umpire. There were two words. One of them started with an M. The other one started with an F. Now, Lane says it's nothing I haven't said before. It is frustration with the call. It's head down. It's not directed at the umpire. This is not somebody who ever shows that kind of emotion and gets in umpires' faces. It's the first ejection of his career. He was really surprised, shocked even at how quick the trigger was there. And his whole point was, I was frustrated. I didn't direct it at you. I didn't show you up, anything like that. Now, Jimenez, a younger umpire who's kind of in the big leagues full time, I think for the first time this year or maybe last year, didn't show a lot of patience there with that. You would like to see perhaps a little more of that from umpires. Lane, to his credit, said the first thought he had once it all happened was, I've just put my team in a bad spot now. They have to replace me. It's a tight game at this point. I didn't want to do that to them. He's really careful. Like I said, this is a very easygoing, pleasant person in general. Not that he doesn't have emotions. He does. But he has never been one to get into it with umpires. And so I think he was shocked more than anything and felt like what he said was not anything he hasn't said before. And he didn't feel like it was directed at the umpire in a way that should have provoked that kind of response.
Well, I could see how there is confusion in a circumstance like that in this regard. So when you say MF, and this is going to sound funny, but I'm being serious. When you say MF, it can be as a way of referring to someone. It also can be a means of expressing frustration of, golly gee, I just struck out looking, MF, See, the beauty of MF, it has many grammatical uses. You can apply it in so many different ways. So, you'd have to be a mind reader. Did Lane Thomas say that directed at Emil Jimenez? Was he mad at himself? Was he just mad at the situation? What exactly did he mean when he said MF? What was the true purpose, the true intent of the MF? And we just don't know. But yeah, I think the lack of experience from Jimenez would suggest that a veteran umpire probably would let that go because you maybe give the player a benefit of the doubt, especially a guy like Lane Thomas, who, as you said, is not known to be a hothead or some, nasty person. He has a pretty good reputation. So maybe Jimenez being a little too sensitive in that spot, tossing Thomas when that did not seem warranted.
Yeah, and I think this is an issue. There are certain umpires who clearly let their buttons get pushed much more quickly than others do. And that's both young guys and older guys. We know there have been a handful of older veteran umpires over the years who have also had quick triggers like that. And I don't know what happens behind the scenes at MLB. They get video and audio and reports on everything like this. I don't know what they do in response to it. Do they talk to the umpires? Do they penalize them ever? Do they subject them to suspension or fine if they think that how they handled the situation was not appropriate? I don't know. I think that more than anything is what players and managers want. They just want to know that these guys are being held to the same standard as they are as players. And if they don't do their job, especially, on a consistent basis, that there are ramifications for that. If a player is struggling consistently, they don't get to keep being a player in the big leagues. Well, with one or two exceptions on the Nationals the last few years, but that's a different story. I think they just want accountability from the umpires. They're all human. They understand that. And I think to understand that in sports, there are high emotions, there are big moments. And the way I've always been told about this by players is there's a way to argue that should be okay. You don't say you whatever, but you just say the word and you're not looking at the guy and not pointing at him and not referring to him that way. You're supposed to be fine. If you're kind of walking away or head down, it's as if you're complaining about the situation and not the individual. And just based on what the account from Lane was and what the video would seem to show, I think he took it that way and probably did not deserve the quick ejection that he got.
Well, the fact that this happened in a game against the Tigers is reminiscent of one of the all-time great videos. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure many people listening have seen it. Earl Weaver and first base umpire Bill Haller, I believe is how you say his last name, September 1980, Orioles-Tigers, and there's the actual audio of Weaver cursing up a storm at the umpire, and the umpire giving it right back to Weaver. This was not that. I don't think video of Lane Thomas and Jimenez will go down in history like this Earl Weaver, Bill Haller video did, but each game involving the Tigers, so interesting enough. All right, so the Nats lose this game, but do get the series win. Overall, you got to like what you're seeing. And next comes a series against the worst team in the National League, at least as of games going into Thursday, the Miami Marlins. 3 games set at Nationals Park, and the Nats starting pitcher for each game in this series is a lefty. Game 1, Friday evening, 6:45, Mackenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2, Saturday afternoon at 4:05, DJ Hurst will be the Nats starting pitcher. And Game 3, Sunday afternoon at 1:35, Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher. I'd love to know, since the Nats came to D.C., how many times have they had a 3-game series for which each Washington starting pitcher was a lefty? I can't imagine that has happened often.
No, I know we were trying to think a week ago or so when DJ Hurst was called up, have they ever had 4 lefties in the rotation at the same time? We could not think of that ever being the case. Maybe they've had 3, but generally speaking, the manager would split them up and not have them go back to back to back unless you had some unusual circumstance where you had no choice. So it probably is. The funny thing, too, the Marlins have 2 lefties going in games 2 and 3, and they haven't announced their starter for game 1. So who knows who that's going to be? Could we have an all Southpaw weekend series at Nats Park? I don't know. Ned Flanders would need to host that and bring everyone over to the Leftorium if that does indeed come to fruition. The schedule, as we've talked about here, after being really tough, it does ease up here. The Tigers, as we said, did not appear to be a great team. We know the Marlins are not. The Diamondbacks have been struggling. I know they went to the World Series last year, but they haven't really been up to that same level. And then it's the Rockies on the road. You'd like to believe this could be the start of something and not just one little blip on the radar, the 5-game winning streak. You'd like to see them have some real momentum during this stretch. And having all the young guys out there pitching, I think, is obviously encouraging. You hope for the best. Hopefully, Mackenzie Gore is fine with the fingernail thing, and that's not an issue that comes up again on Friday night. But I want to see how they react to this one loss. Do they just brush it off? No big deal. Get back to work and take care of an inferior team again on Friday. There's an opportunity here, I think, for them to really sustain something for the first time in a long time.
There absolutely is. I mean, 32 and 36, the notion of the Nats going into the All-Star break above 500 is very plausible. Heck, the notion of the Nats being above 500 come July 4th is very doable. You know, save for that wacko road trip that the Nats have coming up June 21st through the 30th, what is a 3-game series at Colorado, a 3-game series at San Diego, and then a 3-game series at Tampa Bay, one of the odder road trips you'll ever see. So there is that. But, you know, in terms of opposition, that's not a daunting road trip. The Rockies aren't that good. The Rays are not having a particularly good season. So absolutely, the Nats can certainly start to pile up some wins here in the coming weeks. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast is brought to us by the DC Grays. DC Grays Baseball, an all-volunteer nonprofit that brings baseball and softball to kids in under-resourced neighborhoods of Washington, D.C. The DC Grays 2024 season is underway. To donate and learn more about the Grays, visit dcgrays.com. All right, you tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website that you can check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. All Nationals highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
You won yourself. You hit me? Yeah, because you put your finger on me. I'm glad you hit me. That's right. You're here for one damn specific reason. What's that, Earl? Just us. Ah, you're full of shit. For years and years.
Do you demand action on the U.S. Open this week? If you do, forget those surface-level shows and check out the Pat Mayo Experience right now. You need the picks? I got them. Want to hear about Pinehurst from people on location? I got that too. Need some data and trends to impress your friends about golfers they've never heard of? I got plenty of that. Take golf seriously, but have a few laughs at the same time. Sub to the Pat Mayo Experience now, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.